Yeah. JJSMI asks, what's your favorite comedy of 2010? Mine is Get 'Em to the Greek. What's your guys' favorite comedy of 2010?
Jackass 3D.
It is definitely not Get Into the Greek. Man, I hate that movie.
I love that movie, but it's not my choice.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't. So you hated Get Him to the Greek, huh, Leon?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I didn't. I wasn't too crazy about that either. Yeah. I didn't hate it, but I was like, I really don't like this movie. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Like I said, as far as something that just made me laugh, I'm not talking about appreciating the cleverness or sit up here saying, oh, what is like one of the most smart comedies that I said? No, something that just really genuinely made me laugh straight from the gut and had me walking out almost in pain from laughing so hard. Jackass. It's just, that's all it is. It's just there to make you laugh and nothing else. And so if we're talking about in that sense, yeah. If we're go ahead. What's that?
Mine is Hot Tub Time Machine.
Thank you.
I love the shit out of that movie. That movie is so fucking funny.
I was trying to think. I was like, there was some movie that reminded me of the whole Hangover 40-Year-Old Virgin, but I can't remember what it was. It was Hot Tub Time Machine. Yeah, you know what, guys? You guys both have great answers, and I can't decide between the two because I laughed probably just as hard in both of them, and yet they're very different type of movies.
Well, I was going to say I love. Right when I was about to say, but I also have to say, and then you mentioned yours. I was going to say Hot Tub Time Machine because I was just mentioning things that are smart and make you laugh. And really, that movie is one of those rare films where they can be, they can appear to have juvenile humor, but is actually very smart in the middle of it, and bringing the whole element of time travel and the way it worked in the film. Yeah, that was one of the smartest movies I'd seen this year as far as the comedy goes. That didn't get any attention at all. So. And it was right up there with Scott Pilgrim for me as far as like movies that are really smart and just nobody saw them.
For me, this has been that year where all the movies that I loved and thought were great were the ones that didn't do shit at the box office, and yet the stuff I was just like, oh, that's lame. That's what everybody wanted to go see.
Yeah. So, you got I think 3 good picks right there, and except for Jackass. Nobody saw them, and that means you probably didn't see them either. You probably saw like Scott Pilgrim, but really go out and see Hot Tub Time Machine. That's a really funny movie.
Or I Love You, Philip Morris. You got a lot of good laughs out of that too.
Yeah, that one's pretty funny. Although that's coming out now. Although I wouldn't put that up against Hot Tub Time Machine. It's not that kind of funny.
Well, yeah. Well, same with Jackass.
Well, no, yeah, it's a different kind of funny. And that one's not really juvenile. That one's actually a pretty good love story, and a con movie that is told with comedy. And yeah, but in the middle of it, you get some really heartfelt drama, and it's a well-told story too. And it's based on the what's the guy, Stephen J. Russell? Is that his name? So
yeah.
It's kind of a true story. It's too, and it's really hard to believe that a lot of this stuff happened, but apparently it did. It's documented somewhere out here. So, yeah. So those are some of our favorite comedies this year. You got another one?
Yeah, this is a small, quick one for me. And then I got a small, quick one for you. Mini Measure 05 asks, how's the new Tumblr site working out? Any future plans for it? I actually just this past week started up a Tumblr. So many of you guys have been giving me a hard time for years, actually, to start collecting up a place where I can post all of my reviews so that you can read the various things that I'm reading and keep up with the various podcasts that I'm on. And if you're interested in that, that's at massaworm.tumblr.com. Or just search Massaworm on Tumblr. And you'll find my new blog where I kind of list everything and should be posting a couple of cold ones with this. Then for Corey, that's not the one I'm looking for. Are you and the Loading Bar guys going to be reviewing any PSP games?
Oh, we're taking it slow as far as the systems that we're on. I mean, right now we're just reviewing mostly console games, and when we say console games, that includes a little bit of the Wii. I know we got Epic Mickey coming up, but and then we have Kevin, who is really into all this stuff. So Kevin has been pushing us to do a lot of handheld stuff like DS and the PSP, and then Kevin is also he's the PC guy. I know.
And why is Kevin's name not in the Loading Bar podcast description?
It is.
Okay, well, that's one of the questions I just got from somebody else.
Should be. I mean, I'll go back and check and see. I thought it was, but yeah, I'm probably going to say at this point it's not high on our priority to review PSP games. PSP is a system that is slowly dying. Sony here in America, at least, has not done a good job at marketing or pushing the PSP. Started out strong because if you notice, there was a lot of movies that were coming out, and on the commercials they would say coming out on DVD and PSP, and just kind of died down. There's not a lot of support for it here, so the PSP is something that we're really not focusing on. If anything, if you want to know a handheld system that we're going to be focusing on, it's going to be the DS, because not only is the DS still kind of going strong, kind of slowing down a little bit, but that's because they have the Nintendo DS 3D or the 3DS about to come out, and when that comes out, I'm getting one of those, and I'm definitely going to be concentrating on those. So no, not
and
a whole.
Of course, that's the system with all the Pokemon games on it.
Well, that's the system with all the Pokemon games, but the thing about the 3DS is that it's 3D, and it's apparently, now I've seen pictures of it online without glasses, and you can still kind of see the 3D effect. The biggest thing that has going for it is like 3D without the glasses, and everybody's expecting this to like just come in and just throw the whole 3D movement off as far as the industry trying to push it on TVs and everything, because hey, look, we got a technology here that doesn't need glasses. That's where everybody's going. And so the 3DS is something that we're going to like have our eyes on very much when that comes out. And the PSP, I think, give it another year and a half, and that thing's going to be gone, man. So it's not going to be too much support for that. So not too much PSP coverage going on here.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well, why don't you pull a magical email out of your box, my man?
Out of my ass? Okay, let's see. We have here an email from Chris87 who says, one of you guys mentioned that Disney has to stop with the Princess fairy tales. Do you think that their movies would be better if they go back to source-like classics such as The Hunchback of Notre Dame, The Jungle Book, and The Great Mouse Detective, or even history? Now, this is the way it's got right. I'm just reading. Or even history, which was used as a source for Pocahontas. Let's take a look at this. If you look at all these movies, all of them except for one were not that huge for Disney. The Hunchback of Notre Dame was kind of like on that second golden age that they had with The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin. Pocahontas and The Hunchback of Notre Dame were kind of the films that were like sort of signaling the end of that era.
Yeah,
that destroyed that era. They
had been on such a roll, and then they did Pocahontas, Hunchback, and Hercules all in a row.
Yeah,
and it was like, maybe this is it. I was surprised Tarzan was so good.
Yeah, Tarzan was that exception, but yeah.
You named all of those films from that era that I loathe that era so much. That's the era of Disney that I hate, because they took a bunch of really great stories, and that was the perfect example of them Disneyfying it and taking these great classics and like, oh, hey, let's tell the Hunchback of Notre Dame story, but let's forget the creepy obsessive part where they die at the end.
Let's
just throw the end of a brilliant book out. And Pocahontas, let's totally change that. And Hercules, the part where he goes nuts and kills his family and then has to go on these labors, not so much.
With Hercules, they just turned it into it's almost Superman the musical.
Yeah,
and they just they ignored everything that was really Hercules about it.
You're right about that, and I agree with you, Carl. The Hunchback of Notre Dame was a travesty as far as in terms of literature. Yeah, the whole thing about the Hunchback dying with Esmeralda, whatever the gypsy's name is, at the end. Like at the end of that book, I think they actually find two corpses together. One of them's deformed, and the other is
it's back in the era where they used to dig up graves, and after a certain amount of time, your grave would be dug up, and they dug up Esmeralda's grave, and they find a hunchback skeleton wrapped around her. He had crawled into her coffin and held onto her and died of starvation in the coffin. He loved her so greatly. It's the last paragraph of the fucking book.
I really hate what they've done with something like Pocahontas and Hunchback. Hunchback especially, because Hunchback is like, I don't know what kind of message they were delivering, but it was almost like, hey, you know what? If you're deformed and ugly, forget about love. Just make sure that the two beautiful people get together and be happy. Your own happiness, don't worry about it. Just go back into the tower and talk to yourself with your imaginary statue friends.
Go talk to your hunch.
Now, granted, there are a number of the other stories where they changed the endings. I mean, the original ending of The Little Mermaid is not a happy ending.
No,
Right.
but that's still more of a fairy tale. I mean, you're taking on something much heavier when you get into stuff like Pocahontas and The Hunchback. Now, I'll tell you what did, and there's some things that work in those movies. I mean, when I look at Hunchback, there's an amazing musical number in there. By the way, that's another thing that I hated. They changed the priest into a judge just to be, very PC and safe. But that judge was actually a pretty good villain and has an amazing musical number in there. But really,
that musical number was the one creepy thing that they kept.
Yeah, it was. But as far as everything else, I agree. They can't, if they want to take fairy tales and soften those, that's fine. They've done that most of the existence of the studio. I mean, that's okay. But things like The Great Mouse Detective was a good movie, but it was something that Disney has a tendency to forget some of the things that made them Disney. And I mentioned this with co-hosts. And Pixar seems to have picked this up. Whenever you make these movies, you can do it with original property or you can do it with a fairy tale, but just, put some heart in there. I think when you got to something like, when you finally got to Hercules and you got the cow movie, Home on the Range, which was something they tried to do that was original, they forgot to put a lot of heart in there. The exception that that they got away with that on with making it wacky was The Emperor's New Groove, which I thought was a amazingly funny film.
Oh, I thought it was the funniest movie that came out that year.
Yeah, but they forget to put a lot of heart in their films, and Pixar seems to pick that up. So no matter what they do, it's not a matter what source material that they go to, as long as they don't go to something too heavy and change the true meaning of it. They need to remember how to balance out their humor with a lot of characters, or memorable characters in heart, and they need to also always. I mean, I don't say this always. I don't think it's a rule. I don't want to make it seem like they have to do this, but I think that one of the stronger points is also their villains. They always make a really cool villain, and sometimes they slack off on that. So I don't think it's a matter of the source material there. So that's let me see. I got one more. Let me see if I have one more. I know we got a lot of questions this week, and I'm just going to read one more here that has come from the DVD Grouch. Who says, what's one Hollywood myth or rumor you wish turned out to be real? For me, it has to be that Sam Raimi continued to make Spider-Man. Somewhere down the line, Bruce Campbell might have played Mysterio. Oh, that's pretty cool.
Okay. I was going to say that that they did pump Rod Stewart's stomach and there was 8 quarts of sperm in it. But I always heard that growing up.
Yeah, I remember hearing that growing up too. I think he's talking about more industry stuff though, not like not like gossip or trash talk or something like that. So, Carla, you got one?
Yeah, I wish they had. I really wish they'd made the second Buckaroo Banzai movie.
Yeah, I remember them talking about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about it, and then it fell apart.
Every year there's a new rumor that it's happening, it's coming together. Right after they get done with the Arrested Development movie, they're making the new Buckaroo Banzai movie.
Yeah. I don't really have any at the moment. I can't think of anything. That's why I let you guys answer, because I knew you'd have some good answers. But there was one rumor that was going around that they were going to make a new Gremlins film, and Joe Dante was going to be directing, and that they were going to come in and do a combination of practical effects and also combine it with CG to make the Mogwais and the Gremlins look better. Of course, that ended up proven to be not true. That Joe Dante said he lied to, but there's nothing going around that he would be involved in. If they are making another one, he doesn't know anything about it. So I would like to see that happen, because I really love Gremlins.
Joe Dante was all like, man, I'd love to do that, but I'm already scheduled to go to this Spill.con thing.
Yeah, we almost had him for Spill.con, and then at the last minute, he was like, I don't think I'm going to go. What's the site again? Oh, that site. Fuck y'all. So, so anyway, that's I don't have anything else. I think that's going to be it for tonight.
Yeah, I had an email, but I'm afraid to. No. But
ahead,
you know what? The way my computer's acting, I don't even want to open up the program.
Well, it's the end of the show, so it could be one of those things where if you exit that way, we don't have to come back. If you want to save it for next week, we can do that.
Yeah, let me save it for next week.
All right, then, y'all. That's it. We're done.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night, y'all.